Welcome to Engineer Versus Introduction to Prezi Presenting. So what we're going to be looking at this time is we've made this presentation last time, and we'd walk through the presentation and how it looks and how we had to add the different paths on here. So notice that the frames, just because you have the frames on here, just to reiterate, doesn't mean that's part of the presentation. So that's what we did a little bit of the editing about. You could see how it was going to be part of the path. So let's walk through the presentation again by just hitting the present button. And we can do that and allow the keyboard controls. So again, we're walking through that first frame, and if you do the left arrow, basically you can go back and forth between the two. Notice how the background image remains like a 3D, mostly because they push it back. And it looks to be, you know, it depends on what your scaling is, but it looks to be like a ratio that's going to be nice whenever you're zooming around, that you can see the different items. So recognize where you might slice or what you might see in this this versus what actually happens when you zoom in. It shifts it back and forth over that boundary. Alright, so that's some of the details that Prezi does well. And again, we have the animated content that can come in. We're not going to spend the time animating anything else, but you can see frame 3, you know, this is our image frame. Notice it's not going to zoom into the image because I did not put that in a frame. Now you can just put the image match a frame, by the way, and then it zooms around to the circle 1, 2, and this takes us upside down, 3, 4, 5, and the 6, and then it zooms back out, and then we're done. So that's essentially where we're at, and it has the summary here as well in that text. So that's our presentation, and what you can do is, even in the middle of the presentation, say whenever you're here, what you can start to do is zoom back out. So what I did is hit the down arrow, and then I can zoom back in by hitting the right arrow again. I can do the left arrow, it takes me back, forward. So this is some of the ideas that you're getting, or some of how the presentation is going to go. So you're going to want to try that out. And the reason I mention that is because you are likely to have people asking you questions about certain items or certain text. So even though that you're done, say, with your presentation, or you're not even done with your presentation, you can go back to where you left off from. So say I'm at circle 2 and somebody says, well, how does this match up with your beginning circle? Well, I'm tapping out. Here's that circle. You can see the overall picture again. I'm tapping out again, tapping back, and it brings us to the overall picture again. And if I tap out further, it just takes us out further and further and further. If I tap back in, it takes us further and further and further. Now if I hit the right arrow, it takes me back to that circle too, so it figures out where you left off. Pretty slick, huh? And then you can do the same thing with circle 3, and somebody has a question about whenever you get to circle 4, I can tap out again. And if I hit 3 times, it only goes once at a time. You have to wait until it gets to the next section before it goes back. Alright, zoom back in again, and then guess what? It takes me back to circle 4. So I hope that's not too dizzying, but that's how we can look at presenting with this. So that's our overall presentation again, and how you can start to get used to that. You can also switch out these rectangles so that you're not always presenting circles, for example, that you can twist. You can twist the rectangles too, upside down, any angles. The ones I like are the ones that say go up a mountain or back down, and then it might take you along a ski slope, that kind of thing, and it takes you from that perspective. But it changes because you're zooming in, and that perspective, you're not necessarily worried about, say, the subtle shifts or the subtle changes that might be happening from, say, circle 1 to circle 2, etc. It's more noticeable here. But if you have something that's, say, a curve that you're following, you can present that, and then whenever you zoom back, it can definitely be something larger. So it's more dramatic whenever you're shifting back to the overall picture. Alright, so that's the presentation and some of the items that you can do there, and again you can start to look to move around some things like this, etc. And it'll snap to the 90 degrees, etc. Now that you've got all of your presentation ready to go and everything's saved, what do we want to do with it? So your settings here, your sharing, is you can share your Prezi, you can present remotely, or just share on Facebook. I would warn against that actually. And then you can download as a PDF. Now if you download as a PDF, keep in mind that this is oftentimes what I do as a presentation because people want to see the presentation before you actually give it. So this might be a requirement that you're going to have to do. So you can do that, but you might want to look at how you need to edit that PDF. So we can download that, or you can download it as a portable Prezi. So we can do that as well. You can present remotely here, or one or the other here. So this just basically brings it to your desktop. This is a actual download, and you can use it at a later time. So we can do either one of these, but it's going to take a little bit to prepare. You can also present remotely. You need to share this link. So to present remotely, you're basically sending it to somebody else to take a look at, and they can take a look at it. So you can see how this link expires 10 minutes after you close this Prezi, and a maximum of 30 people can watch a remote presentation at the same time. So this is more for sharing like an automatic way. The other thing here is your presentation being downloaded. You can see that it downloaded here, and it says, okay, do you want to save it, etc. I'm just going to close that at this time. But for this presenting remotely, this is basically for sharing the link and people can look at it. And again, it's something that expires 10 minutes after you close this Prezi. So if you want to keep it open and do, say, a remote presentation, you certainly can. People will be able to open it up and look at it themselves as well. So realize that's what you have under the sharing options. Under the share Prezi, this pops open another window, or should pop open. Oh, you know what? It doesn't pop open another window. It just says, oh, you're sharing it to Prezi itself. So this is something that will suddenly show up in Prezi on the Prezi website. Anyone that's in Prezi can start to search for it. So if you remember, we went to the website, you can start to search for all sorts of different things. And that's where you can present that, publish it, and let it go for everyone else to see. So now that we've got a lot of our items in here, we can look to say, okay, you know what? I don't want to share it. I want to actually go with that custom private settings. You can upgrade, and that's where you upgrade and get, you know, a free 30-day or however long period. And everything that we've made is public. We've already published this. So if we publish this, we should see maybe one or two show up. Not yet. Oh, there it is. So this is the one that we made. I had made this previously in previous sessions, but this is the one that we just saved. So notice that all of them start to show up, and you can start to put them in different folders, make different versions. So if you do the same presentation, say at a couple different conferences or at you know, different groups, you might have different audiences. Maybe you have lawyers for one audience, architects for another audience. You shift and just do a save of a different presentation. And you can certainly do that here as well. So you can also look to scrap. I don't really need this, so I'm going to scrap that. It's gone for our presentation here. But you can also look to do, you know, that folder. It adds it to a folder. You can look to share it, look to edit it, and that'll pop you back in it. If you just click on here, it does the same. If you want to hide everything that you've made, and if you want to keep it private so that people can't search it, on the Explore button, then you need to upgrade. And again, just to go over that pricing, you're looking at pricing of about $60 a year. Not bad. To keep everything which you can work online, say you're taking flights back and forth, it's $160 a year. I would say it's definitely worthwhile, but you can see some of the things that you can look for. So if we say that, hey, we're going to look for, let's see if anything comes up whenever we do this search on their site. Well, they have engineering, they have a few different things. I don't see our presentation yet. I'm not going to spend the time looking around for it today. But it's basically got a number of different items for you to use that you can use for your presentations and such. So again, Prezi is a very powerful presentation tool, and again, you need to spend the time to get used to it, and once you get used to it, you will figure out that, hey, it's a different technique on presenting, and you can definitely have awesome flow as you're walking through a presentation, and a lot more dynamic than, say, Microsoft PowerPoint or other presentation. And on top of that, you can swirl around and do different tricks and tips along with the same sorts of animations that you can get out of a PowerPoint presentation. I hope this has been useful for you, and that you can put these skills, get these skills and use them quickly and to easily do presentations for whatever you may need. Thanks again. This has been Engineer versus Prezi.